Senseless fragments remain, waiting for me. Flickering lights dance eternally in pools of his blood. One by one I shot them, his family and his friends. And then I shot him. I shot them all. Senseless fragments. Why, this is hell, nor am I out of it.
On the whole, outlaws come and outlaws go, but some of them refuse to die.
Ma and me have been married now for 38 years.
54.
What's that?
54.
54?
You've been down the whiskey house for most of them.
But she was a beautiful woman when I married her. When I kissed her cheek, it felt like blessing a cliff. Good looks rubbed off on the sun, too.
I really liked him. He was my brother, of course. Still, I used to think of him as my best friend. But even I never understood him.
And action.
How did I meet him? Well, I've been rustled, and I've been rustled, if you know what I cut.
He could have been a hero. We knew that. Wouldn't have been enough.
My body is a temple, and you're standing on the steps.
Every day I blew a secret, noiseless kiss to her near translucent cheek. Her body was a tequila lime pie. Oh, one slice would have been enough for me.
Worship me, you caveman.
Now, there's a truism in law enforcement that we tend to see things in black and white. You know, wanted, dead or alive, that sort of thing. With him, though, it was always more black and gray.
And stay out.
The only intoxicating fluids in my body, madam, are those it has synthesized for its own. Good morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Blotto. I see you haven't peed in your hat yet.
No?
Every scream, every shudder you thought you'd bottled up, he'd come along and uncork it.
The other brothers, Mongo, Dingo, Punch, Blotto, just thought he was a weirdo. I knew otherwise and would frequently invite him over for Chilean mezcal. Tequila slammers helped prepare the mind for his somewhat radical views and even more radical actions, tales of which he would relate with increasing gusto as each successive tequila and tonic tickled his tonsils and sullied his bloodstream, brain-bound. Out of all of us, he was the only true outlaw, who only once got caught. I often wondered if that luck was the wage packet of an immortal and infamous employer.
We are los hombres.
Los hombres de mezcalina.
We are desperados.
No bandit meaner.
Our draw is fast.
Our wits are sharp.
No dagger blade is keener.
And when we're done carousing,
Let's send in the cleaner.
Arf! Arf! Arf!
Yeah, that was our song. Sheesh, those were the days. We really thought we would just go on like we'd last forever. Brothers united.
My brothers, my people, get down on the street, oh, the church is crumbling, and here we are just stumbling. My brothers, my fraternity, they're waiting eternity, cathedrals are falling, don't you hear me calling?
I guess we thought we were immortal or something. It's not funny. We don't talk anymore. He was facing the firing squad when you was just a runt, Blotto. He was 17 years old.
According to legend, he was whistling as 12 men fired at him for 6 minutes. Not a single bullet wound was found on his body. So, they led him back to his cell, where he remained in the company of a padre, whilst they decided upon his fate.
I was called in to administer the last rites. He said to me, "I'm glad my day of judgment has come before the rest of the world. My toes will curl as I watch you all die." I asked if there was anything he wanted. He just grinned as wide as his cigarillo was long and said, "Padre, you of all people should know I'm going to get everything I asked for." He knocked religion and God, which is unusual. Normally it's one or the other. Perhaps he was just jealous. I was sure we had him by the cojones, but I hadn't figured on the locals, believing they were holding a zombie. They were even more convinced when they saw him anderling across the border. So, we became pen pals.
We saw him less and less, more on wanted posters than face-to-face. He'd be all over the country doing crazier and crazier things. Newspapers couldn't seem to write his name big enough.
reminded me of the time I shot a man in the pocket watch because I thought he was going for his pistol. There was coils and bits busting out all over, out of the watch as well. And that's what it was like. Just suddenly...
I don't think he ever forgave me for falling in love with his brother. It upset him rather a lot. Good. I mean, what's a girl supposed to do, huh? For weeks I wait for him. In pouring rain I stand, waiting for the mail coach to bring news of him. I was a sad creature who took to kissing wanted posters for my loneliness.
I know that girl was trouble the moment I set eyes on her. I said to myself, she better keep her hands off my boys, I said.
What girl?
That girl.
Trouble had stolen his pants and given him back too tight in the crotch.
I don't want to talk about it. I paid my debt to society, although I think I still owe the library a few bucks. She was 16. She was beautiful. And she was mine. Oh, actually, she was his. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
It's unpleasant enough to suddenly find yourself in a town full of people who want you dead, but we're still by far to be loved by someone who wants to kill you.
He went doolally for a while, shooting up half the county, but it must have drawn a big question mark in his head, 'cause he didn't harm a hair on either of theirs. That really got her goat. And it sure screwed up young Blotto here. Nope. Instead, he stepped out alone into the desert. 3.5 months came and went. Nothing. Not a sign of him. Then one evening, we were all sat out in the veranda when the dead vulture came spinning out of the sky, crashed into the water butt with a buckskin book nailed to its head. The Black Book.
Such ideas he had, such arguments, at times with the conviction of a soul lost eternally, other times possibly redeemable. I left a Bible in his cell, which he later used to slam a guard's penis in. Bandits and the Bible tend not to mix, you see. The Bible won't tell you how to lasso a steer or know where the next bullet's coming from, for example. Of course, it'll help your horse stand up if one of its legs is shorter than the others.
Whoever's up there, they do nothing but play games with us. Snakes and ladders with our souls. Ludo with our lives. Mousetrap with mankind. God sits up there like a hyperactive 8-year-old, humming. pegs in the holes, men into destinies. And with my brother, games. Nothing but stupid games.
We found him in the desert, all stretched out on the sand like icing on a cake. He was starting to slip away. Lolita put her arms around him and held him up, crying, "Wake up! Wake up!" He opened his eyes, smiled, and rasped, "I am waking up. It is reality into which I am slipping. And you, señorita, you are the dream."
He didn't come drinking with me no more. And that's when I hid the bottle. The other one. Another bottle here, please.
We all wanted him to lead the gang, but he spent all day and all night outside in the rain, head up like a turkey. "What are you looking at?" I asked him. "Broken television," he replied.
Fate, man. Bust around his head like flies around a gringo's ass. For example, before the train robbery, we were in the cantina, and he suddenly drew his gun and shot a full bottle of tequila, so calm, like it had already happened, you know? We all just stared as this beautiful golden fluid trickled busily about the splinters of glass and spattered onto the sawdust. And then someone said, "Let's go rob this train before somebody else does."
We were all living a dream when suddenly, blam, like a shot in the gut, we fell, face down in the dirt. Back in the real world.
So you say.
It was just like any other train robbery, except this was the big one. This would have set us up for life and then some. And it was all his plan, down to the tiniest detail. The aubergines, the ceramic bullfrogs, everything.
So is this like the talkies? I ain't never been to a motion picture theater. Saw a flickety-book of a naked lady at the fair once. I don't have to take my clothes off, do I? Glad I had a haircut yesterday. We were up in the Sierra Madre. As I recall, it was real beautiful early morning. Yeah, it was still fresh and cool. We were picking up steam and heading into the shadow when a glint caught my eye. Heck, I looked up, saw 4 of them in the rocks. There was George Michael on bazooka. Now you have to remember that they called this the unrobbable train. Yes, sirree. We were thundering along. We just kept going in this impregnable creation when I heard the engineer call out in a terrible shriek, "There's leaves on the track!" Huh? What's that sound? What's going? Holy macaroni! Someone's making off with my train again. Oh, dang nothing! My sandwiches on board and everything. I hate when people take the train.
And Pancho fell asleep, man. Can you imagine? You're in the middle of a train robbery, there's guns blazing, 100 tons of iron bearing down on you, and you fall asleep. That's better than waking up, I guess. Okay, I admit it, Pancho's always falling asleep. It's what he does. It wouldn't have been a problem, man, if Gonzo hadn't insisted we bring him.
Hey, we needed all the hands we could muster. It had all been worked out. If Mongo had been keeping an eye on him like he was supposed to, it wouldn't have happened.
1 second, man. I was distracted by this beautiful cloud for one measly second.
Dingo should have been.
Dingo was supposed to jump up into the engine and take care of the driver, but a wolf leapt out of nowhere and started snapping at his heels. Dingo tripped and started tumbling and hollering. The train kept rolling.
It happened so quickly. I looked back at Poncho, and he was swaying right in front of the train. It looked like he was going to collapse on the track, like he was done for, man. When suddenly there's this flash, and my brother is standing right before the train with his arms stretched out wide, as if he truly believed he could stop it with sheer willpower. Far out.
The sheriff soon got wind of it. This time, he said, that varmint has bitten off more than he can chew. But the only teeth were the ones in Dingo's leg.
I was praying in my room when there was this enormous boom, made the floor tremble, and the crucifix fell off the wall. And when I looked outside, the sky beyond the mountains was the color of thin blood, like the blood of a tortured man. An hour later, a pounding on the door shook the whole church, as if Satan himself sought confession. Of course, I recognized them immediately. Los Hombres de Mescalina. Gonzo at front, carrying his brother. Then Dingo carrying Poncho. And then Mongo carrying some more of the brother. I led them in and led them to the infirmary.
We'd been expecting one hell of a fight, even though we knew their leader was down, so I'd rounded up a posse of 50 men. But when we came into the chapel, not a word was said. Those boys didn't raise a hand, not even an eye.
So the sheriff rode into town with a priest beside him, and all the boys bound up and in tow. Everybody just stood silently, staring. "Where is he?" I cried. "What have you done with him?" The padre pulled me aside.
I need a box.
Said the sheriff to the undertaker.
A thin one should do it. Oh man, she cried so much her eyes looked like strips of jerky. We rode back to the church, but he was gone. This corpse had flown.
What a cadaver!
Yeah, they were going to hang us the next morning, which was like, a bit of a downer, you know. Dingo, by this time, he's just howling like a dog. At one point, we thought he was going to dig us out, but he stopped when he found a bone. A human femur, I think. But in the middle of the night, we heard a scuffle outside and saw the flash of a boxing glove punch the jailer out. A rattle of keys on the door creaked slowly open. We peered out. There's got to be a joke there somewhere. Let's see now. How about... Now that's what I call a ghost of a chance. I'm making sense. He told me a riddle just before we left to rob the train. Two men are out riding. One guy says, "Where did we get these horses?" And the other says, "What horses?"
How do I know what it did to him? I can't read his mind. No one can. I was his woman, and I can't even write it.
Those spectres of guilt, the demons of shame that haunt all men with any ego to speak of, didn't seem to trouble him. Not because he was without guilt or shame or ego. Nothing gets to him. Nothing. Perhaps in his dreams.
I wear a new shirt every day. If I could, I would have it woven onto my back. I know that the very fabric, no, the essence of the garment, the spirit of it, is mine, all mine, not haunted by the follies of the past, especially my past.
I like to wear old clothes because I can read how the past is shaped. I'll take refuge in the safety of the past like anybody else, as opposed to the unknown of the future, say a shiny new pair of shoes. But now you come along.
I guess having your arms cut off by a train can alter your outlook appendage-wise.
The more he tried to cover his tracks, the more footprints he left behind. I knew I would find him in the end. You cannot outrun destiny. Every day his trail grew fresher. Every day I got closer. One by one I shot them, his family and his friends. Now they are gone. Only he and I remain. Senseless fragments.
If you think you can make sense of it all, good luck to you. But if you ever do find him, it'll be because he wants you to. You tell him I'm sorry.
Thank you, Blotto, I will. Listen, there was one thing I wanted to ask you before.
No!
Oh, lasers. Daddy? Dad?
Oh, my head.
You can hit me all you want. I'm still gonna shoot you. This? Huh. It's not a gun. It's a cine camera, loaded with cartridges of regret, tipped with bullets of guilt. Your guilt.
I knew it would all end in tears.